r/Askreddit by Reddit and chill. You go on a first date with someone. What habit or characteristic is a deal breaker? I went on a date with a girl. This date was a disaster. She got food in her hair and all over the place. She wouldn't get off her phone. And she stabbed herself in the cheek with her fork because she wasn't paying attention. I've never seen her since. Here is a great story. First date in college. I drive a truck and live in a city. So spots are tight. This spot is particularly tight. So I say, this is a tight spot, so watch your door when you open it. Girl, are you telling me how to open my door? Doesn't pay basic attention and slams the door into the other car. OMG. She's such an idiot. I absolutely hate people like that. When they're sassy for no reason and proceed to do what you explicitly said not to do. Repeatedly interrupting me when I'm talking. Especially when I'm answering a question they asked. It tells me they're not actually engaged in what I'm saying. I know a girl who asks every guy she goes on a date with what his credit score is. She wants to make sure they're financially stable. Also, she's 23 and doesn't know how to pump gas. Does she offer anal when it's above 730? Self-deprecating to the point where everything needs to be somehow connected in a negative way back to yourself. Like literally everything. While chatting it's even more obvious. Sad faces all the time. I'm dumb. I don't deserve what I've achieved, etc. Oh. How about when I was invited out with a guy I met online to a nearby sushi place? We'd texted and chatted for about a week till I finally felt comfortable meeting him. Date picked me up. The conversation on the drive there was great. Seemed like we were connecting. However, while at the restaurant, he proceeded to order about $100 worth of sushi. While I ordered maybe a roll and some appetizers. My total would have been about $30. At most. I tried to engage him. But quickly realized the conversation was lacking. Because he was busy. He proceeded to text on his phone the entire time at dinner. Ignored me and took pics of his food. Posted that the place we were at was amazing. He ate everything in front of him. Okay. Gotcha. At this point, I knew what was going on. And when the bill came, he was still on his phone. Posting. Texting. Laughing at the response to his posts. He ignored the waiter. Plus the bill. The waiter politely left it on the table. I looked at my date. Then the waiter. Date never looked up from his phone. The look on my date's face when he was handed a $100 bill for his food was priceless. I paid mine with my card. Plus a hefty tip. Date asked me out. Oh crap. I forgot my wallet. Can you spot me? I just pretended I was on my phone and left him there. And walked out the door. I'd already ordered an Uber at this point, since he drove us there. And yes. Don't worry. The waiter got a massive tip. About the amount of my bill, it wasn't his fault that the date was in a shat. I just pretended I was on my phone and left him there. And walked out the door. What a power move. If they are hard to talk to, might not make them a bad person. But obviously there is no chemistry if all I get are one-word answers where they also don't reciprocate questions. So you're a teacher, right? Yep. Dot. Well, that's cool. What grade? Second. Dot. Or what a great age. That's like the perfect time cause kids still kind of like school. Aha. Check please. I still get this with my girlfriend sometimes. I think some people can just be natural listeners. Obviously it won't be received very well on the first date I had. Being a know-it-all. I had lunch with someone who called the table salt sodium chloride and used the bread as a way to tell me everything he knew about complex carbohydrates, some of which wasn't even correct, and their connections to evolutionary theory. It just felt like he was compensating for something. SODIUMCHLORIDE. Getting so drunk on the first date that you can't figure out Uber and I have to drive you home. No. You can't stay on my couch. I don't know you. I did this once. That relationship ended up lasting 2 years though. Was going to just be a hookup, my first time doing that, so I got drunk to not be nervous. Got too drunk. He took me back to his house and out me in pajamas and fed me pizza and held my hair while I puked. I thought he would never want to see me again. But he was cool about it. Too much discussion about money. So how much do you think you're gonna get when your parents finally croak? I watched a monster eat a Caesar salad with her mouth wide open. It was impressive but absolutely gross. Within 20 minutes of that date I knew where her vibrator and weed were stored at her parents' place in her room and that she made $240 every 2 weeks. I can smell her through this comment. Yuck. When she puts her smoke out in her baked potato. LMAO. I'm assuming there's a story behind this? Someone who doesn't ask about me. It shows that they don't actually care. I was so nervous that when he asked something, I would just talk about myself and I forgot to ask anything about him. Noticed it the second we ended the date. But we had a second one. I did get to ask him about himself and well, I really wish I hadn't. Edit. This is going to be really disappointing. It wasn't like a one thing he said. He just turned out to be a bit creepy. He tried to convince me that his hobby is walking in the woods during dark nights. He really wanted me to go with him into the woods like immediately and of course I didn't. He might have been sincere. But seriously. I'm not going to do that and he shouldn't have pushed me to do it. If he had said I really like to go into the woods when it's dark, I would have said wow. That's cool and he could have told a bit about it. But you don't pressure someone to do it on the second date. He also had a problem with pretty much everyone in his workplace. Except his boss who told him every day that he is doing everything right. Yep. Sounds normal. On their phone the whole time. If you can't disconnect for an hour or so to engage with me then it's not going to work. Right. I'm on a date as I'm reading this entire thread and I can't believe how much of it I agree with. This bitch keeps tutting and clearing her throat loudly and I don't know why. Learn some manners. They talk over me and spend the conversation giving me unsolicited advice about how to live my life. Edit. I feel like I need to specify that I was thinking of one specific first date that did not become a second date when I answered this. Lol. The guy didn't like that I had dyed my hair blonde at the bottom and spent a lot of the date telling me about the dangers of bleaching your hair and how I should learn to make better choices. I just wanted to have a good dinner, man. Terrible haiku. But what did I expect? Constantly talking about their exes. I feel like there's a balance needed. For my so and I. We were upfront about weird issues we brought with us from past relationships. Everyone has baggage. You gotta be able to talk about it so your new boo won't be confused when something unimportant to them stresses you out completely. I know there are things that would have really annoyed me. Boo, because we talked about our past relationship issues. It was a lot easier to grow past it and be better with one another. Edit. To add some context. Yes, it was our first date. We also live in Nick. So my theory that the city makes everything move at a quicker pace, even tough conversations about communication and emotional boundaries. I was once set up to go on a blind date with this girl. We were given each other's email addresses and so I hit her up. We exchanged a few pleasantries. Then set up a date time to finally meet. The day of. I get an email from her in the morning with an attachment. I open up the attachment and there is a questionnaire with like 25-30 questions on it. She requested I kindly fill out the questionnaire before we meet. I quickly reviewed the questions before sending her a reply saying that it's probably best we don't meet. I don't know what characteristic she embodied, but I'd say that was a deal breaker. What kind of questions were they? Someone who makes me read their bad poetry. This has happened to me more than once. Edit, as I just woke up to a bunch of responses and I can't possibly reply to them all individually. I don't hate poetry. I very much like it. Especially Vaughan poetry. However, on a first date, there is a huge difference between. Have you read this poem by X? What do you think of this bit? And here is my notebook. Read it all and tell me what you think. Story bits for those who asked. The first time this happened I was 18 and we met through mutual friends. While it wasn't great, it wasn't emo angsty levels of bad. Unfortunately he then started sending me poetry he had written about me and calling me his muse. This after having met once. He then went full stalker. So yeah. Nope. Second time was some years later. It was bad. But I was not mean about it. We continued chatting, then said goodnight politely and parted. The next day he went from "I had a really nice time. Give me a call" to "I am sure you are busy, but please reply" to "Clearly you are ignoring me, so let's never speak again" in the space of a 3-hour barrage of text messages. I was at work, so I didn't see the messages till lunchtime. Have you tried vegan poetry? It is out of this world. The amount of guys who think negging is a good flirting technique is ridiculous. Contrary to what you read on WikiHow, insulting a girl doesn't make her want to impress you. It just makes her realize you're a dong. One guy I matched with on Tinder asked me for my Snapchat, and when I gave it to him he said, "Oh, I don't want it. I'm not attracted. Wouldn't want to go on a date or anything disgusting like that." He was trying to flirt, but it was an instant turn off. I'm not here to be insulted or put down, and being rude isn't cute. Spending the whole time on their phone. Had a first date with a guy once. At some point I asked him to look up something on his phone. I forget exactly what the context was. And he told me he had intentionally left his phone in his car for our date. Color me impressed. We dated for nearly a year. The type of guy who needs to flirt with the waitress or just be heavy. How else is one supposed to establish that they're an alpha? Lying about their appearance. Very specific app example, guess which one? But you see their pictures. They look nice and then they are different in person. What's the point? As a rule, if they have dog ears, a butterfly halo, or are puking a rainbow, what you see isn't what you'll get. Lying. Even, if not especially, about small things. I was once told that someone had gone down a hill on their bike so fast a speed camera clocked them at 234 miles per hour. Ignoring that that's faster than the world record on a bike. Why? Why are you making this up? I've seen being rude to wait staff a dozen times in here. Are that many people rude to waiters? Zero opinions on anything. If I'm going to date someone, I want some sort of brains or passion going on up there. I had this happen with a girl I was talking to 3 years ago. She seemed to have no passion about anything. And honestly it seemed like she didn't have any personal opinions. Conversation would go something like this. Me. What are you majoring in? Her. History. Me. What time period are you interested in? Her. None really. Just studying it because my parents said I would probably like it. Me. What sort of job are you hoping to get after graduating? Her. My parents said I'd make a good teacher. So I'll probably look into that. Whenever I asked her a question, the answer about why she liked something, or her interest, or an opinion, she would always talk about it as if it was someone else's idea or opinion. And it always seemed to be. Hygiene. In general. Edit. Yes. You guys. Lack of hygiene. Good. Bad. Doesn't matter. If you got hygiene. I ain't doing IT. I was on a double date with this one girl. She seemed really cool and I was having fun on the date. Then she stuck her pinky in her ear to scratch and pulled out some earwax. That was a little gross. But then she ate the earwax. I decided right then to not go on a second date. One of my best friends casually began to date one of my ex-girlfriend's friends. He was really starting to like her and took her out on consistent dates. A few sleepovers, etc. My ex-girlfriend told me this girl was texting her about her date with my friend later that night. My ex asked her if she was into him as much as he was. Her little response was no. But free food is free food. I was hurt for him. Devastated. I didn't want him to feel what I felt and I wasn't even the one dating her. I took my friend, roommate at the time also, aside that afternoon and asked him to please delete her number and never talk to her again. I didn't say why. I just asked him to trust me and to please stop seeing her. It's for the honest best. Knowing me for years and years. He politely accepted my request and deleted her. Without question. He knew I knew something and understood I was helping him avoid emotional pain and disappointment. He is too nice of an individual to experience that. Trust goes a long way. You are a true friend. Breton. Be proud of that. I don't hate people who smoke particularly, but my parents smoked so much that I promised myself to never date someone who smoked. I used to smoke. I have been smoke free for 3.5 years now. It is amazing how different I smell. And how I never noticed. I don't know how non-smokers put up with being around me smoking all the time. Ducking like and subscribe.